What if Suzuki's fuel saver you paid extra for is quietly rewriting your engine's future? Suzuki's lean burn badge convinced a lot of owners to buy bigger, upgrade sooner, and run longer because the math looked irresistible at the dock. And the savings can be real, which is exactly where this gets risky. When fuel feels cheaper, your habits change, your hours climb, and the engine spends more time living in a narrow efficiency window that dealers rarely explain. Nothing blows up on day one, and that's the trap. The cost doesn't show up as noise or smoke. It shows up later as wear, downtime, and ugly repair bills, right when warranty fades. Here's what lean burn really changes: the fuel savings. Promise that changed buying decisions. The pitch was simple, and it landed hard on wallets, stretched thin. Dealers leaned on one promise above all others: dramatic fuel savings without giving anything up. Brochures, dock talk, and sales desks repeated the same figures until they sounded settled. Compared with older two-stroke motors that burned 100 liters on a long day, the lean burn badge was said to use 36 liters. Against a conventional four-stroke of similar size that might consume 100 liters, the lean burn claim hovered near 86. Those numbers did the selling. They reframed purchase math, turning a sticker price into a payback story. Spend more today, save every trip tomorrow, and watch the difference add up by end. That promise reshaped decisions. Buyers justified moving up a size or replacing a motor earlier than planned. Commercial operators ran spreadsheets and circled break-even dates. Sales language focused on hours on the water, not hours on the pump. And it worked. The idea felt practical, not flashy, and it sounded like protection against rising costs. When fuel feels cheaper, behavior changes, savings invite use, and use has consequences that were never part of the pitch. Why this technology appeared when fuel prices spiked. Lean burn did not arrive in a vacuum. It surfaced when fuel prices were climbing and staying high, squeezing anyone who measured life in hours run, not weekends used. Every jump at the dock recalculated budgets. Range anxiety stopped being theoretical and became a root decision. That pressure primed the market for any promise that sounded defensive rather than indulgent. Efficiency sold as survival, not comfort. Commercial operators felt it first. Longer runs meant fewer refuels, fewer detours, and tighter schedules that still penciled out. Dealers leaned into that urgency. They talked about staying on the water longer, finishing jobs without cutting trips short, and holding margins steady while costs rose. The message traveled quickly from working boats to private owners who feared being priced out of their routines. Nobody wanted to idle at the dock watching prices climb. Timing mattered more than features. When fuel costs rise fast, buyers accept change faster. They look for shields, not experiments. Lean burn fit that mood perfectly because it promised continuity. Same routes, same habits, just lower burn. Yet markets move in trade-offs, not miracles. When one cost drops, another often shifts quietly into place. That shift explains why moment mattered. If this breakdown is helping you see past the sales pitch, support the channel by liking the video, subscribing for warnings, and sharing your experience in the comments so others can learn before spending money they may not get back. What owners assumed efficient meant. Efficiency carried baggage that buyers rarely questioned. Many assumed it meant gentler operation, less strain, and longer life by default. If a motor used less fuel, it felt logical that it was working less hard. That belief fit years of messaging that equated new technology with protection. Updates were framed as progress, and progress was framed as safer ownership. Longevity expectations followed naturally. Owners expected fewer repairs, steadier resale, and a calmer ownership curve over time. Efficiency sounded like insurance against surprise bills. It also felt like a hedge against regulation, as if newer systems were built to age better in a tightening market. Nobody buys with the expectation of problems, but efficiency made that optimism feel rational. What rarely entered the conversation was how savings interacted with habits. If something costs less to run, it gets used more. That idea was obvious in other purchases, yet oddly absent here. Buyers pictured the same routines, simply cheaper. They did not picture longer days, extra miles, or extended seasons made possible by lower burn. The assumption was not reckless, it was incomplete. That realization reshapes expectations going forward, where the sales pitch quietly stops. Sales conversations grew quiet at a certain edge. After savings were established and confidence built, discussion moved on. What did not get airtime was not a flaw, just an omission. Dealers focused on immediate reassurance, not long arcs. Warranty language was mentioned, but only in passing, framed as standard coverage rather than a timeline that mattered. Attention stayed on purchase day, not year 3 or year 5. The silence was subtle. Nobody said anything untrue. They simply did not dwell on what efficiency changes over time. Trade-ins were discussed in broad strokes. Service schedules sounded familiar. Ownership was presented as linear and predictable. That framing calmed nerves and closed deals. What went missing was emphasis. No one lingered on how different usage patterns interact with coverage limits, resale expectations, or out-of-pocket exposure once the honeymoon fades. Those topics complicate a clean pitch, so they stayed backgrounded. Buyers left with answers to the questions they asked, not the ones they did not know to raise. The story follows the motor, carrying a consequence that waits beyond the sales floor. That is where the next pressure appears, the single mechanical change that makes lean burn possible. Inside the engine, lean burn comes down to one deliberate adjustment: how much air is mixed with how much fuel during combustion. Traditional gasoline engines aim for a balance of roughly 14 parts air to 1 part fuel. Lean burn shifts that balance, allowing the mixture to stretch leaner, sometimes approaching 19 parts air to 1 part fuel during specific conditions. That change is not random. It is calculated constantly by the engine's computer, which listens to a network of sensors measuring speed, load, throttle position, and ambient conditions. The computer uses those inputs to decide when the engine can safely burn less fuel without misfiring or losing stability. Fuel injectors shorten their pulse, air remains abundant, and combustion stays controlled. Nothing else inside the engine magically changes shape or material. Pistons, valves, and bearings are the same components they have always been. The difference is how hard each combustion event works them over time. That adjustment delivers efficiency, but it also obeys the same physical laws as every engine before it. Fuel carries cooling properties, and reducing it alters the thermal balance inside the cylinder. Lean burn improves mileage, not physics. From here, the operating window becomes the real story. Why lean burn only works. Some of the time, lean burn does not operate everywhere on the throttle. It is selective by design. At idle, the engine prioritizes smoothness and stability, keeping mixtures closer to conventional targets. During steady cruising, where speed and load remain predictable, the computer allows the mixture to lean out and chase efficiency. That is the sweet spot, where fuel savings appear on trip meters and spreadsheets. Push past that zone, and the strategy disappears. At wide open throttle, the system abandons lean burn entirely. Fuel delivery increases, mixtures enrich, and the engine behaves like a traditional power plant, focused on output rather than thrift. This handoff happens instantly and automatically, without driver input. The important detail is how narrow the lean burn window can be in real use. It thrives during long, steady runs and fades during acceleration, heavy loads, or rapid changes. Engines do not spend their lives at one extreme or the other. They move constantly between conditions, hovering in transitional states that define everyday operation. That in-between space determines how often lean burn is active and how often it is not, shaping long-term exposure quietly. The cost of efficiency. Nobody sees on day one. Efficiency has an internal currency, and that currency is heat. Leaner mixtures burn hotter because there is less fuel available to absorb and carry away energy. This does not cause immediate drama. There are no warning lights on day one, no sudden changes in sound or feel. The engine continues to run smoothly, often better than expected, reinforcing confidence in the system. Heat works differently than shock. It accumulates. Each combustion cycle running slightly hotter adds a small amount of thermal stress to internal components. Metals expand and contract. Clearances shift by fractions that cannot be felt or measured casually. Over time, repeated exposure shapes wear patterns that remain invisible during early ownership. This is why the cost stays hidden. Heat does not announce itself with a single event. It influences longevity quietly, through thousands of hours and countless cycles. Efficiency delivers immediate savings at the pump, while its internal cost spreads thinly across time. The engine feels fine long after the conditions that began shaping its future are already in place. The silence is part of the mechanism, and it makes the trade easy to overlook. Why two identical engines can age differently. Two engines built on the same line can live very different lives. Usage patterns matter. More than model numbers. One motor may spend its hours cruising steadily at moderate load, sitting squarely in the lean burn window. Another may see frequent acceleration, heavy loads, short runs, or long idle periods. Both appear similar on paper, yet their internal histories diverge quickly. Duty cycle defines exposure. An engine running fewer hours at higher variability experiences different stresses than one running long, consistent stretches. Environment compounds that difference. Ambient temperature, humidity, altitude, and fuel consistency all influence how often lean burn engages and how intense each combustion cycle becomes. None of these factors are extreme on their own. Together, they shape outcomes. Design assumes an average that rarely exists. Engineers plan around expected use, not every possible scenario. When real life drifts from that expectation, results spread. Identical engines age differently, not because one is defective, but because conditions write their own story over time. The design works best when reality cooperates, and that assumption closes the loop. What engineers design for, and what they don't. Engineers design around assumptions that rarely make it into brochures. Test cycles run under controlled loads, stable temperatures, and predictable operating windows. Fuel quality is consistent, free of contamination, and matched to specifications. Service intervals are followed on schedule, not stretched by convenience or forgotten seasons. Data collected during development assumes these conditions repeat reliably, allowing models to predict wear, performance, and emissions with confidence. Those assumptions are not reckless. They are necessary to build anything complex at scale. A design must choose a baseline, and that baseline becomes the reference point for every calculation that follows. Engines are validated against that reference, signed off, and released to the market with expectations baked in. What they are not designed for is improvisation. Real ownership introduces variables that never appear in validation loops. Fuel sources vary from marina to marina. Usage patterns change with weather, work, and opportunity. Service schedules slide quietly when everything seems fine. None of these deviations are dramatic alone. Together, they pull operation away from the conditions the engine was modeled around. The design does not protest. It simply continues, assuming the lab still exists. Outside the lab, consequences wait patiently. That gap defines risk over time. How small deviations quietly add up. Small deviations begin innocently. Fuel that meets minimum standards may still carry moisture, sediment, or inconsistent blends that alter combustion behavior subtly. Long cruise hours stretch operating time beyond what casual owners experience, keeping engines running in steady states for days rather than minutes. Partial load use becomes common, hovering below full power yet above idle, a zone where engines spend much of their working lives. None of these habits feel abusive. They look like normal use, even responsible use. The problem is accumulation. Each deviation nudges operation slightly away from the assumptions embedded during development. A single tank of questionable fuel does not matter. One extended run feels productive. A season of partial load operation seems gentle. The engine accepts all of it without complaint. Over months and years, those small shifts stack. Performance remains acceptable. Starting stays easy. Alarms stay silent. That quiet feedback reinforces the belief that everything is fine. Yet internal conditions are no longer matching the ideal scenarios imagined at design time. The gap widens slowly, without a single moment that demands attention. Damage, when it begins, does not announce itself with noise or smoke. It advances quietly, supported by the same normality, persist longer. If you want clear, proof-driven breakdowns like this before you buy or sell, subscribe to the channel now. New videos track pricing shifts, long-term ownership costs, and timing windows, so you can make decisions with facts instead of pressure confidently. Why maintenance matters more than advertised. Efficiency raises the maintenance bar because tolerances become less forgiving over time. Oil quality matters more when operating conditions vary and internal stress accumulates quietly. Lubrication that performs adequately under average loads may struggle to protect components exposed to longer runtimes and steadier operating states. Cooling attention follows the same pattern. Systems designed to manage heat within expected ranges rely on consistent flow, clean passages, and unobstructed exchange. Monitoring becomes the early warning system that replaces obvious symptoms. Subtle changes in temperature trends, oil condition, or performance feel minor until they repeat. Lean burn engines do not reward neglect immediately, which makes deferred care feel harmless. That delay is the trap. By the time behavior changes, the underlying conditions have already shifted. This does not mean ownership becomes fragile. It means the margin for ignoring small signals narrows. Efficiency compresses timelines. What once took years to matter may matter sooner when usage stays high and conditions remain steady. The engine continues to run smoothly, reinforcing confidence. Yet, the cost of skipping attention grows quietly in the background. What feels like saving time or money early often reappears later with interest, paid not at the dock. Why failures get blamed on bad luck? Failures tied to long-term wear rarely point back to their origin clearly. When problems surface, they often appear after years of normal operation, making cause and effect difficult to trace. Components degrade gradually, staying within acceptable limits until they cross them. That crossing may happen suddenly, but the process leading there was slow and uneventful. Misdiagnosis fills the gap. Symptoms get treated in isolation, disconnected from the conditions that shaped them. A worn part is replaced. A setting is adjusted. The engine returns to service, and the larger pattern remains unseen. Because nothing failed dramatically early on, it feels natural to label the outcome as random. Warranty timing reinforces that belief. Coverage often expires before long-term effects fully surface, separating ownership responsibility from design assumptions. When issues appear outside coverage windows, they feel personal rather than systemic. The owner absorbs the cost, chalking it up to age or chance. The quiet nature of the progression protects the narrative that nothing unusual happened. The bill arrives long after the sale, when conversations have ended and accountability feels abstract. By then, decisions cannot be reversed, only paid for, slowly, without witnesses after the moment of purchase has already passed quietly. Who lean burn is actually built for. Lean burn fits certain usage profiles far better than others, and the difference is not about preference, but math. High-hour operators benefit most because fuel savings compound quickly. Commercial users running hundreds of hours each year see immediate relief at the pump, turning efficiency into predictable operating margin. When engines are tools rather than weekend companions, hours matter more than calendar age. Saving fuel every day offsets purchase price faster and absorbs trade-offs more easily. Private owners often operate on the opposite timeline. Their engines age in years, not hours. Usage is seasonal, intermittent, and shaped by weather and free time. Fuel savings still exist, but they accumulate slowly, sometimes taking many seasons to match expectations set during purchase. In that context, efficiency competes with longevity, storage realities, and resale timing. Neither pattern is wrong. They are simply different. Lean burn was optimized around frequent, steady use where savings are visible early and often. That optimization quietly leaves others outside the ideal zone. The design favors repetition over patience. Understanding who benefits most requires looking at how often the engine runs, not how long it is owned. Optimization, by definition, draws a boundary, and someone always sits outside it. Who absorbs the long-term risk? When wear appears earlier than expected, someone pays. Downtime costs money, whether the engine earns income or supports recreation. Missed trips, lost workdays, and canceled plans all carry value, even when no invoice is issued. Repairs add another layer. Parts, labor, and diagnostic time accumulate quickly, especially when issues surface gradually and require investigation rather than simple replacement. Resale absorbs risk quietly. An engine with documented repairs or unexplained issues loses leverage in negotiation. Buyers discount uncertainty aggressively, and sellers absorb that discount whether they acknowledge it or not. Efficiency rarely features in resale discussions once age and condition dominate the conversation. What mattered at purchase fades when exit approaches. The timing of these costs matters. Fuel savings arrive early and visibly. Risk arrives later and unevenly. For some owners, the savings outweigh the costs. For others, the math reverses quietly. No single party carries all the burden. Manufacturers design to averages, dealers close transactions, and owners live with outcomes. Risk spreads across time, landing where coverage ends and responsibility begins. Savings do not vanish. They simply move risk forward, reshaping when and how costs appear. The question most buyers never ask. Most buyers ask how much fuel an engine uses. Fewer ask what the engine costs to own across its full life. Fuel efficiency is easy to measure. Total cost requires patience. It spans purchase price, operating hours, maintenance attention, downtime exposure, and eventual resale outcome. Each factor matters more or less, depending on how long the engine stays in service and how intensely it is used. Ownership horizon changes everything. A short horizon favors efficiency because savings are realized before long-term effects surface. A long horizon favors stability because costs spread across years rather than hours. Many buyers assume these horizons align automatically. They do not. An engine can be efficient early and expensive late, or modest early and cheaper over time. The question rarely asked is simple but uncomfortable. How long will this engine stay with me, and under what conditions? Answering it honestly reframes decisions. Efficiency becomes one variable rather than the headline. When buyers skip that question, they borrow confidence from marketing instead of building it from math. The wrong metric feels reassuring at purchase and disappointing later. Regret does not come from choosing efficiency, but from choosing it without context. The trade-off you can't avoid. Once hype is stripped away, the remaining decision is not dramatic. It is practical. Efficiency offers real savings under the right conditions and real trade-offs under others. Longevity offers predictability, but may carry higher daily costs. Neither path escapes compromise. Each shifts cost, risk, and timing differently. Clear sight replaces certainty. Buyers decide whether they value immediate operating relief or long arc stability. They decide whether hours or years define success. They decide how much variability they can tolerate in exchange for savings. These decisions are personal, shaped by usage, patience, and exit plans. There is no universal answer hiding behind specifications. The market offers tools optimized for different realities. Choosing well means matching the tool to the job, not the promise to the hope. Efficiency does not cancel responsibility, it rearranges it. Every gain has a ledger, and every ledger balances eventually. Understanding that balance is the real purchase decision. No recommendation can replace that clarity. The engine will do what it was designed to do. The rest depends on how closely reality follows the design. Because every efficiency gain comes due, always, in one form or another over time. Before you decide this is good tech or bad tech, drop your real-world hours in the comments. What Suzuki model? How many hours? And what kind of running you do? Long cruise, heavy load, or short trips? That one detail helps everyone watching make smarter buying decisions. If this breakdown saved you from a costly mistake, hit like so it reaches more owners. Subscribe for more engine and market warnings, and share this with a buddy shopping for an outboard right now.